channel. Now then, on today's video we're going to be looking at this. It's an Airfix 1-72 Messerschmitt BF109-E3 starter set. Now I actually bought this little kit before Christmas last year from one of the big supermarkets here in the UK. Can't remember if it was Aldi or Lidl. Every year they sort of have a Christmas sale, if you like, and they get rid of a load of Airfix starter sets for cheap. I think this is like £4.99, something like that. So last year I ended up buying a load, and through the winter months when the evenings are dark and you can't always get out there and do RC related stuff, I actually really enjoy making some of these little starter sets. Everything is included in the box, all the paint, all the brushes, all the glue, so you don't have to supply anything extraneous to that. Everything's in the box. You just make a model. It's nice and relaxing, and I really enjoy it. Over the years I've made hundreds of model kits, and it's something that's never really left me. I still enjoy making them. I'm not one of these modelers that sits there and goes to the nth degree with regards to the detail. The build is the interesting thing for me. And like I say, I can't recommend it enough. If you're suffering from a bit of stress or you're feeling down, go and grab yourself a model. These are great. These starter sets are, like I said, they've got everything included in them. It's just a stress-free hobby. And talking of that, I mean, also if you build Airfix models on a regular basis, if you save up the Airfix flying hours, there is a charity here in the UK called Models for Heroes, and if you save them up, I'll leave a link in the description. If you save up your flying hours, you can actually post them off to Models for Heroes, and they then use them to buy kits for ex-service persons with mental health issues. So it's a really, really good cause. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's see what is in this box. Right, then in the box we get a set of acrylic paints. Now these are quite quick drying, not like the Humbrol enamels that I'm used to using. And I actually used to turn my nose up at these acrylic paints, and I used to turn my nose up at these starter sets really, because they weren't like it wasn't proper modelling, because you had to use acrylic paints. But actually the last few models I've done using these, the results have been pretty good actually. And what we're going to do, as usual, we're only going to use the contents of the bag, the box. So we're only going to use these paints, only this glue, and only the brush supplied. But anyway, what else have we got? We've got our instructions, and these modern Airfix instructions are just fantastic. Got a set of water transfers for our model, and like I say, we've got a set of decent instructions, and these aren't like the bygone Airfix instructions. They're very comprehensive, and they also give you a colour coding as well for various bits and pieces, so they're quite detailed. So if you've never made a model before, these new model kits are superb. And last but not least, we've actually got the model itself, and the brush. Now actually, this looks like a reasonably moulded, crisp Airfix kit. I used to be put off years ago from Airfix kits because I used to make them in the 80s, and the moulding used to be absolutely terrible, and I was a bit of an Airfix man really. And Airfix stuff was it was garbage, to be honest, most of it. But this new Airfix stuff, it's all very crisply moulded, and a lot of it is new moulds. Anyway, let's get the bag open and have a closer look. So first impressions are pretty good. I mean, there's plenty of detail on the parts. It doesn't look as though there's any flash or rough edges, to be honest. The tyres even got a nice little bulge in them where they sit on the ground. I mean, this version has even got like a little removable engine cowl, and you can see the engine underneath, so there's plenty of scope for detailing there. I'm sort of regretting saying that I'm only going to use the paints in the box now, because years ago I would have fully detailed the engine. But we're going to do our best with it anyway. History behind this aircraft: I think it was flown by a gentleman, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, apologies to any German viewers out there, Oberleutnant Vernon Pichon Kalu von Hoff. I believe this gentleman's aircraft depicted is one he flew in the Battle of Britain, and by the time he finished, I think he had 21 kills to his name. Not all in the Battle of Britain, I believe, but 21 kills to his name, so he certainly knew what he was doing. Anyway, the first job, and this is especially important with using acrylic paints, is to give these sprues a wash with some warm soapy water and let them dry, because there will be some residual releasing agent from the moulding process, and because these are water based, if you've got any left on the pieces, it just goes funny. Right then, so far so good. I've actually put a couple of coats on pretty much all the parts actually. The paint is going on really nice. I did forget initially the golden rule of acrylics, and that is to, if you water these down slightly when you're applying them, they go on much nicer. Sometimes they can be a bit gloopy, and they dry so quick you've got to work fairly quickly anyway. But it isn't looking too bad, to be honest. I mean, considering that you know, we're using acrylics. I have noticed while I was doing the model, there is a couple more extra bits and pieces. Like you can have the flaps in the down position, and you can also have an open canopy if you want. So that's a nice touch. I don't know what we're going to do yet with regards to the flaps and the canopy. I am going to break the golden rule though. Initially I said I wasn't going to use anything that wasn't in the box, but I really want to detail that engine a little bit, so I'm going to use some leftover silver and gunmetal grey, I think, just to detail it a little bit. Anyway, I think we're at the stage now we can actually start putting this thing together. So I mean, literally the paint dries so quick with these acrylic paints. You know, you could, if you wanted to, do one of these in a day. Right, and that's the cockpit interior done. I think there's only about 6 parts involved in it. I've dry brushed some silver onto the edges just to give it a bit of depth. There are 2 water transfers to be applied to the cockpit. These are just replica instrument dials, etc. Next thing to do on the list is we've got to assemble the 2 fuselage halves, which means putting this cockpit interior in the fuselage. And I think we also assemble the propeller, and we put that in as well, and the exhaust stubs too. So let's get on with it. Okay then, so far so good. Everything seems to fit together nice, with little or no sanding. I almost had a little disaster where I cut the propeller shaft in half with my snips by accident, so we almost had a glued on solid propeller, which wouldn't do at all. Like I say, everything seems to fit nice. I'm just waiting for the glue to dry on the propeller, and then we can can put it in the fuselage and glue them 2 halves together, and then we can put the exhaust stubs on and the engine cowl, etc. Right then, it's starting to look like a little plane now. 2 halves of the fuselage glued together, cockpit's in place, propeller is glued on and rotates, exhaust stubs are on, lower radiator cowl, that's been glued on, as has this little inlet for the engine, I presume. I really do like this little removable engine cowl, so you can see a little bit of detail underneath. If I wasn't limiting myself to the contents of the box, then you could really go to town with that. Next stop is the tail of the aircraft, where we fix the tail plane and all that malarkey. So we'll get that sorted, and then we're on to the wings. Well, there's our tail plane on, a little bit fiddly with those struts, but it's all on. Next job is the wings, and what I think I'm going to do in the meantime is have a cup of tea and let that glue set. Now, I have actually jumped ahead of myself a little bit and completed the wings and glued them on. I've also glued the undercarriage onto the bottom of the aircraft as well. I'm just touching up various bits and pieces of the blue paint underneath. I think the next job is to fit the cannon and the little pit tube and the horn balances onto the control surfaces. Once that's done, I think we are going to, or I'm going to touch up the dark green on top, and then we're going to start painting the camouflage. Right then, we're getting somewhere. I've put the horn balances on, the little pitchet tube and the cannon. They were fiddly as you like. My eyesight isn't getting any better with age, unfortunately, and those pieces were absolutely tiny, so I did struggle a little bit, I must admit. I've put the first layer of camouflage on, the green. See what that dries like, see if we need another coat, and then onto the canopy and the transfers and the little aerial on the back. Right, second coat camouflage is on. I'm actually trying a slightly different technique for painting the canopy this time. I'm actually removing it from the sprues and actually gluing it to the aeroplane, and then try and paint it on the plane. Just basic so that it's held in place, and I can use 2 hands then, one to hold a magnifying glass and the other one to hold a little cocktail stick just to go around the framing. It's actually working quite well, I will admit. The cockpit isn't a great fit on mine, but I've just got to paint the rear portion of it, fit the centre section and the little aerial, and then we're on to the decals then. Right, I've pretty much gone and finished it. Canopy's done. I've applied the decals. There are no real issues there with the decals. They're going pretty well. One of them underneath did foul the pictured tube, so I had to put a little slit in it to get it over. The decals themselves are fairly comprehensive. There should be like a swastika at the back, but I totally get why they don't put one in the kits anymore. But apart from that, it's pretty much done. I did, I'm not sure of whether I've done the right thing, but I did put a little bit of a black wash over it just to calm the blue down and just to make it look a bit weathered. Not 100% sure at the moment whether I did the right thing because it's gone a bit patchy. But apart from that, like I say, it's done, and I'm fairly happy with the results. The wash, I might be able to do something with that wash, sort of tone it down a little bit. But I'm fairly pleased with the outcome. Now, before I tell you what I think of this kit, please don't forget, if you are not going to use these flying hours tokens on these Airfix boxes yourself, please save them up and send them off to Models for Heroes. I'll leave a link in the description because they will put them to good use, providing kits and such to basically our ex-service personnel and emergency services personnel. Right then, conclusion time. What did I think of the Airfix 1-72 Messerschmitt starter set? And as ever with these little starter sets, you can't really complain. You get all the bits and pieces in them. I think I've made a reasonable job of making this model. Not 100% sure about the weathering at the moment. I might have been a bit heavy-handed with it. But apart from that, it makes a fairly decent model, I'm not going to lie. And for the price, $6.99, you know what, you really can't go wrong. I mean, if you in the UK at the moment, Aldi and Lidl, always before Christmas, have a bunch of these kits on special offer in their special buys aisle. So you can pick them up for next to, $6.99, it's for nothing. And it'll keep you good for hours. So would I recommend it to you guys? Absolutely, yes. I think it makes a decent representation of a Messerschmitt. And like I say, I think the weathering is growing on me. Anyway, if you found this video of some use and interest, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you're feeling that way inclined, hit that subscribe button for more similar future content. Once again, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again very, very soon. Thank you.